Imagine you are standing on the pristine porch of your newly purchased Australian dream home. The air is warm, the sun is setting, and you have invested every cent of your life savings into this slice of paradise, believing you have secured your family's future and financial stability. But beneath your very feet, a silent and brutal catastrophe is unfolding. The earth is cracking. The rivers that once fed this vibrant community are choking on dry dust, and the lush green illusion that sold you this property is quickly evaporating into a harsh, unforgiving reality. You aren't just losing your access to clean water. You are watching your hard-earned net worth evaporate into thin air before your eyes. Across the vast continent of Australia, a terrifying climate crisis is reshaping the map, turning thriving towns into desolate ghost regions where home values are plummeting in tandem with the vanishing water tables. The stakes have never been higher, and what is happening right now in the outback and on the shrinking fringes of major cities is a grim, terrifying preview of a global catastrophe. If you truly want to understand the dark truth hiding behind the real estate market and the climate emergencies lurking in plain sight, you are in the exact right place. And if you refuse to be caught off guard by our rapidly changing world, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now, because uncovering these hidden realities is exactly what we do here. Today, we are counting down the top 10 places in Australia where the water is disappearing, and the housing market is entering a terrifying freefall. And you will want to stay until the very end, because the town taking our #1 spot has witnessed a collapse so absolute. Families are simply walking away, leaving the keys in the doors of unsellable houses. Let us descend into the dry, dusty heart of the crisis. At number 10, we find the outer fringes of Mandurah, Western Australia. You might typically think of this area as a coastal haven, but just inland the reality is different and deeply alarming. The vital groundwater aquifers, which generations relied upon heavily to keep their gardens green, are depleting at an unprecedented rate. As the water table rapidly drops beneath the surface, the ancient soil compresses, leading to massive structural cracks in the foundations of family homes. Families who bought in at a premium just 5 short years ago are now facing properties devalued by up to 20%. The crisis significantly intensifies as we move to number 9, the Coorong in South Australia. Once a thriving, massive estuary teeming with diverse wildlife, the rapidly receding water levels and extreme hypersalinity have turned this picturesque ecosystem into a barren, lifeless expanse. You look out over the water, fully expecting a sparkling reflection, and instead see a shrinking, heavily salted puddle. Retirees who confidently sunk their entire superannuation into waterfront properties are watching their hard-earned equity wash away with the tide. The local economy, once buoyed strongly by ecotourism and recreational fishing, has dried up just like the lower lakes. Homes that once commanded intense bidding wars now sit stagnating on the open market for months on end, eventually selling for a mere fraction of their former glory, leaving aging couples to face inescapable poverty. The devastation only deepens as we journey further into the heartland, arriving at number 8, Cobar, in western New South Wales. Here the red dirt feels as though it extends into infinity, but the town's lifeblood, its municipal water supply, is dwindling dangerously fast. You walk down the sun-scorched main street, and the anxiety in the air is heavy and palpable. Families are subjected to extreme water restrictions, forced to helplessly watch their community parks turn brown and their property values sink into the earth. The mining and agricultural backbone of Cobar is heavily water-dependent, and with the local reservoirs flashing empty, economic confidence has completely evaporated. If you owned a family home here, you would be watching your investment lose 15 to 30% of its value, as young professionals and essential workers systematically flee to more secure postcodes. The human toll is absolutely staggering. Generational farmers are holding desperate fire sales, abandoning the legacy of their ancestors, because a house without water is simply a tomb. The situation grows even more dire at number 7, Mildura in Victoria. Historically known as a lush oasis fed by the mighty Murray River, the region is now fighting a brutal, losing battle against prolonged droughts and shifting climate patterns. You see endless rows of once profitable vineyards now completely abandoned, the vines dead and twisted like skeletal fingers reaching from the deeply cracked earth. For the homeowners heavily tied to the agricultural success of the Sunraysia region, the severe drying up of irrigation allocations has triggered a catastrophic domino effect on the local housing market. Real estate agents are struggling to mask the sheer desperation spreading throughout the community. When the crops fail, the town bleeds. Homes are shedding tens of thousands of dollars in value, and families who once thrived on the bounty of the river are packing their bags in defeat, leaving behind empty, silent neighborhoods that echo with the ghosts of past prosperity. The escalation of this crisis becomes truly terrifying when you look at number 6, Walgett in northern New South Wales. Imagine turning on your kitchen tap to give your young child a glass of water, only to be met with a sputtering, muddy sludge or worse, absolutely nothing at all. That is the daily, horrifying reality in Walgett, where the Namoy and Barwon rivers have repeatedly ceased to flow entirely. The town has been forced to rely heavily on mineral-rich bore water that rapidly ruins household appliances and forces residents to depend on bottled water donations just to survive the week. The housing market here hasn't just dropped, it has practically flatlined. You cannot convince anyone to buy a home in a town that cannot even guarantee safe drinking water. Desperate homeowners are aggressively slashing prices by 40% or more, practically begging for an exit strategy that simply doesn't exist anymore. The sheer frustration of dealing with a broken system leaves residents completely exhausted. You watch helplessly as the very foundation of your community crumbles under the unforgiving sun. As the landscape grows visibly harsher, the financial ruin aggressively accelerates, bringing us to number 5, Stanthorpe in Queensland. Nestled high in the granite belt, this town was once celebrated for its crisp climate and booming apple orchards. But when the region catastrophically hit day 0, the town completely ran out of municipal water. Imagine the sheer suffocating panic of knowing your town's reservoir is completely dry, forcing fleets of heavy trucks to haul in water daily just to keep the population alive. For local property owners, this apocalyptic scenario was a final death knell for real estate. Why would anyone invest their hard-earned life savings in a town dependent on a highway convoy for basic, daily survival? You could acutely feel the despair radiating from the local businesses that permanently shuttered their doors, and the families who saw their property assessments plummet overnight. Houses that were once proud family estates rapidly became immense financial liabilities, with values plunging dramatically as the stark reality of a waterless future firmly set in. The horror of this localized climate collapse pushes us deeper into the abyss at number 4, Dirranbandi in Queensland. Once a massive powerhouse of the Australian cotton industry, fully supported by a seemingly endless supply of river water, the town is now being slowly and painfully reclaimed by the dust. You look out over the vast barren floodplains that used to be green with massive wealth, and the silence is entirely deafening. The economic engine of Dirranbandi relied entirely on this liquid gold, and as the rivers shrank into a pathetic string of stagnant, muddy pools, the high-paying jobs vanished. When the jobs go, the people inevitably follow, leaving behind a terrifying ghost town in the making. Homeowners here are trapped in a waking nightmare of negative equity. You would find streets where every second house is completely empty, their market values decimated by over 50% in record time. Generational wealth has been thoroughly wiped out in the span of a single brutal drought, leaving resilient outback communities utterly broken by a rapidly changing climate they simply cannot fight. The devastation finally reaches a critical mass at number 3, Pooncarie in New South Wales. Situated on the lower Darling River, this once thriving river port town is a chilling testament to environmental and economic collapse. You walk along the dry riverbed, but you don't need a boat, you need hiking boots. The river has repeatedly run completely dry, resulting in catastrophic fish kills that heavily poisoned whatever shallow puddles remained. The psychological trauma for the families living here is unimaginable. You wake up every single day to the nauseating stench of rotting ecosystems and the terrifying realization that your home is essentially unsellable. Property values here haven't just tanked, They have ceased to exist in any meaningful way, leaving residents completely marooned. The sheer isolation compounds the tragedy, making every single day a grueling battle for basic resources. Families are left wondering if the government has simply forgotten them entirely. The sense of impending doom becomes absolute as we reach number 2, Wilcannia in New South Wales. This beautiful town, deeply rich in indigenous culture and outback history, has been subjected to a water crisis so severe it feels like a deliberate erasure. The Darling River, the spiritual and physical lifeline for the entire community, has frequently been reduced to a dry, deeply cracked trench. Imagine the profound, heart-wrenching grief of watching your cultural heritage and your community's life source turn completely to dust. The socio-economic impact is undeniably catastrophic. The lack of reliable, clean water has decimated local living conditions, leading to severe health crises and an utter collapse of foundational infrastructure. You simply cannot sell a house in Wilcannia because the fundamental human right to clean, flowing water has been violently stripped away. The property market here is a tragic graveyard of broken dreams, with values crashing so low that homes are virtually given away, yet absolutely no one will take them. The financial ruin is absolute, leaving generations trapped in a vicious cycle of environmental poverty. Every dry wind that sweeps through the empty streets carries the painful memories of what this town used to be. The heartbreaking reality is that without major intervention, the situation will only continue to degrade until there is absolutely nothing left. But absolutely nothing can adequately prepare you for the total devastation of our number 1 location, Menindee, New South Wales. Remember the shocking apocalyptic case teased at the very beginning? This is the undeniable epicenter of the Australian water crisis. The Menindee Lakes, once an incredible inland oasis visible from space, have suffered from catastrophic systemic mismanagement and extreme drought, rapidly transforming into an unrecognizable wasteland. Millions of dead fish have repeatedly choked the remaining water, creating a massive public health nightmare that has made terrifying global headlines. Imagine standing on the banks of your waterfront property, the foul stench of decay filling your lungs, deeply knowing your house is now worth absolutely nothing. The systemic collapse here is so severe that terrified families have hastily packed their cars in the dead of night and simply driven away, leaving the keys in the doors of houses that zero buyers want. The real estate market in Menindee is entirely annihilated. You are looking at a broken community where the climate crisis has achieved total victory, obliterating both the fragile environment and the generational wealth of every single resident who called it home. This is not a distant theoretical future. This is happening right now. The rapid disappearance of water in these 10 towns is a terrifying alarm bell for the rest of the world. As the rivers dry up and the lakes turn to dust, the global illusion of real estate security is shattering, proving that no investment is genuinely safe when nature itself violently turns against you. The evaporation of water is fundamentally rewriting the economy, and the families left behind are paying the ultimate price.